ready to strap in. It's going to be a heck of a ride. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Never a dull moment, but yes, you'll hear the stories you won't hear anywhere else, and we appreciate you being here with us for them today. I'm Justin Barclay.
That's the fight we're in. Let me see if this fixes things for you. Folks, how does that sound? Is that a little bit better? You know, sometimes it takes a little while to get things tweaked, and I'll tell you what's going on behind the scenes. I'll give you a little bit of maybe a little bit of an update coming up here in a little bit, tell you what's going on. All right, let's kick it off with the Fauci story. A lot of people want to know about this one. Fauci lied, babies died. Fauci concerned about miscarriages caused by the COVID jab. Public was never told about this. You and I, in fact, I have a personal story that's going to knock your socks off if you've never heard it before, that surrounds this very story. But Fauci discussing the jab, this was, back a few years, discussing the jab back when he was still in power. And, everything they told us, safe and effective, safe and effective. By the way, have a donut, take your shot, safe and effective. Want a cheeseburger? Your shot. Want to win the lottery? Take your shot. They did that here in Michigan. Wasn't that crazy? They would throw you in the running to win the lottery. And I think somebody did want a couple $100,000 or maybe even more. You just think about, like, if they had to do that to get you to take the shot, what in the world was in that shot? The Fauci ouchie, the hokey pokey. Anyway, they're now finding out he knew all along when they were here telling us, oh, no, everything's fine, nothing to see here. Everything's fine. He knew that there was lots yet to be told about in those shots. And here's just some of the reporting on this.
From Dr. Anthony Fauci's government iPhone. In one exchange from January of 2021, Fauci, then CDC Director Rochelle Walensky, and then Surgeon General Vivek Murthy discussed COVID vaccination and pregnant women. Fauci flags a potential concern after the second dose, writing that many people experience, quote, significant cytokine storm and fever, and that this, quote, theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester. Walensky responds, quote, definitely a good point, especially after dose 2. A cytokine storm is essentially when the body releases too many inflammatory signals that could cause high fever, inflammation, and in extreme cases, life-threatening illness.
All right, I got to pause it there because that's probably the most disgusting, the most despicable, the most sick thing that we've ever. They never told us, and we were told everything was safe and effective. Everything was good. Everything's fine. We were told, no, nothing to see here. So what's interesting to me is, and again, this is something that you're not going to hear on the nightly news. They're not going to correct a record on this. They're not going to come out and say, wait a minute, wait a second, hold on, wait a minute, let's just make sure we tell everybody about the thing that we weren't telling. Remember, brought to you by Pfizer. They're still trying to keep all those relationships alive. Trump, by the way, out there, Trump reacting to this because this is a major story. He was in the Oval, asked about a couple of different things yesterday. They had another in a related story I want to get to as number 2 here. I know we're taking a while to get through the big 3 this morning, but I want to get to that coming up here in a second. Again, tomorrow, Mahomes is going to be a heck of an update. I can tell you that much. Trump with the reaction to all of this.
Senators Rand Paul and Ron Johnson released some text messages from Anthony Fauci, and it appears that as early as January 2021, they knew that there could possibly be complications with pregnant women and miscarriages tied to the COVID vaccine. Yet the Biden administration health officials, they didn't change their rhetoric. Your reaction?
Well, the Biden administration was a disaster in every way. That would be just one way, but they have been a disaster in every single way. It's unimaginable what they did in that. Forget about weaponization, forget even about, as important as what you're saying, so many of the open borders, the men and women's sports, they've just been a horrendous disaster, the highest inflation in history. And we're doing a great job.
Senators Rand Paul and Ron Johnson released some text messages.
Okay. So now we know, it was a disaster. I think it's beyond that. Now we know what happened. Lock him up. That's what I say. And that would be kind. That would be kind to Fauci in this case. Lock him up. Lock him on up. He knew, and they never told us. He knew, and they never gave us any indication that any of this was going on. All right, so you probably want some good news. I want to tell my personal story. I'm going to get to that coming up in a second. And first, I'll finish up, as it were, our big three, because these are the stories again that we ought to. We like to fire through them first and foremost, right when we get on. But this Fauci story was so big. Probably should have left it for last, but it's so big. Trump and the RFK just broke up the child vaccine schedule. Then this is massive. Maha Missy has a personal story about this too, with her son, who went through a massive bout of autism. They were able to fight it. And the details, I'm sure she'll share more tomorrow. And today he lives in Australia and has a very productive life as a 30.
In one big shot like the size of a large glass of something. This announcement is a major victory for parents' rights, religious and constitutional rights, and for the gold standard science. And we will continue to do the research and update the recommendations as we learn more. And I think you're going to see some amazing results. I'm breaking it up. It's not only that you're doing fewer vaccines or jabs, as they say, but you're doing them in a series of visits to the doctor, much smaller amounts. To ensure Americans benefit from these recommendations, my administration is fully committed to using every tool at our disposal, including a review of potential funding and finding. Frankly, we're doing funding and we're doing findings. And the findings will be announced almost immediately as we gain some strong surety. So now I'd like to have Bobby say a few words, followed by Jay, Heidi, and Jamie, and then I'll sign the executive order, which I'm very excited about, because I came in and I said, I want to find what's going on with autism. It's many, many times what it used to be years ago, and it gets progressively worse, and we add progressively more and more vaccines. So in a nutshell, and you can see it through this, we're breaking up the vaccines, and we're breaking them up into time periods. Okay, not so complicated. And we think we're going to have a tremendous result from doing that. Very simply, large amounts of vaccine, large amounts of like vats of vaccine are currently pumped into your child's body. And we're doing 20% of that at each visit. And we'll let time elapse between visits so the body can handle this massive amount of fluid being pumped in. And I think it's going to make a big difference. You know, there are some groups that have virtually no problem with autism. And they, you know, I have to say this, they're groups that aren't big into the world of vaccines. So there's something wrong. We see record numbers all the time, every year for years and years. Every year gets higher, higher, higher autism. And we think we have a very good recommendation, and a lot of good things are happening. We're going to be releasing some very detailed papers. Here's another one, European countries versus the United States. Look at that. These are high-level, very medically powerful European countries. You see the top, that little chart says a lot, but that's the difference. So with that, I'd like to have Bobby say a few words, please, and then we'll go to the others. Please, Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We'll get to him in just a second, but what he said there about Europe is the key. And I'm going to say why it's the key in this case, because what you're going to hear from mainstream media, opposition, the Democrat Party, but I repeat myself, and then some of these nutters on social media, you're going to hear, oh, this is horrible. They're doing these things. They're taking us backwards. These standards are in line with many other countries across the world that are much healthier. If you look at the European standards when it comes to food, beauty products as well, but also in these vaccines. It is a different world. It is a completely different world. Linda says people have TDS will never see this. Makes me yeah, and they're the ones who are that are ill. So you're absolutely right, but that's the piece of this that has to be explained. What we're doing is something that's putting us more in line. Why was it the other way, you might ask? Because these pharmaceutical companies, big pharma, were out of control.
I want to start
Corrupt.
by just reinforcing something that
So that's a big one, and like I said, she'll have more comment on that tomorrow when we run through it. Trump has told Axios the new plan for Iran, it's low key. They call it low key. I guess the kids these days with the buzzwords. Trump to Axios, we are low keying it with Iran. What does this mean? It's a new negotiation strategy, a new front. At the end of the day, what does it mean for you? I don't know. I think it's just about playing out the clock on these guys. Dow futures up 65, S&P up, NASDAQ up a little bit as well. Oil up today too, but down this morning in the futures. So it's back into the 80s. Your price at the pump right now went down here in Michigan over the last, I guess it was last week or so. So just to let you know where that all sort of plays out. I want to tell you my Fauci story, and I'll do that coming up here in just a moment. Like I said, I have a sort of a personal connection to this miscarriage story about the jab. Again, they know they've got Fauci's texts. They've all been released. And his texts look kind of weird, by the way. I don't know if you saw some of them, how they came out, but they look kind of strange. I don't know if because he's like sort of older, didn't know how to work it, or if there was something else about his phone. Maybe he was messaging in a different way. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll look through some of these so you can.
So this is just coming to light now, Sandra, that Fauci had these concerns. And I remember when I got the boosters, I developed pericarditis, then that went away. Then when I had the second booster, it came roaring back again. So, the body reacts differently to these things depending on who you are.
And it goes back, too, to the discussion we were having around the hearing last week and some of the questions in the room, how Dr. Fauci wasn't actually seeing or treating any of these patients to see some of these effects firsthand, but just speaks volumes to the severity and the importance, obviously, the decisions that were being made in that time. And, obviously brings up an even bigger concern that we can't get him to answer any questions today, Don.
Yeah, 111 times he took the Fifth Amendment, even though he was at no risk of incriminating himself because he'd already been pardoned by President Biden.
All right, let's bring in our senior congressional correspondent, Chad Pergram. He's live on Capitol Hill with more on all of this. Hey, Chad.
Sandra and John, we're just starting to process some of these text messages that was obtained by Ron Johnson, the Republican senator from Wisconsin, and Rand Paul. They both serve on the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee. And as you say, he appeared under subpoena at that hearing last week. And a couple of days later, we got this note from Ron Johnson here that they had obtained a copy of the cell phone that Anthony Fauci had used during the pandemic from HHS. So there's more than 34,000 messages here, and we're just starting to fillet those right now to understand what's in some of these messages. And one thing I look at here, there's this message between Fauci and Vivek Murthy, who was the, Attorney General at the time. And he says, for pregnant women, this is Murthy writing to Fauci here. For pregnant women considering getting the vaccine, are you aware of any data or theoretical reason why vaccinating early versus late in pregnancy would be preferred? That's a message from late January of 2021. You have to remember, go back in time here 5.5 years ago. That's when they were just starting to push out the vaccine and people were getting this. Here's another message from just a day later. This is January 6th of 2021. Again, this is Murthy writing to Fauci. What is the sense, as well as Tony, that I was surprised to see the WHO put out a strong saying that they do not recommend Moderna in pregnant women? That's a strong statement to make and potentially quite damaging to public confidence among pregnant women. Now, we've just called Ron Johnson, who's on that committee. And again, this was his subcommittee, which is under the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee that had Fauci before it last week. And we're trying to get some information from that. I'm going to be talking to Ron Johnson, hopefully here in about the next 25, 30 minutes, and maybe he can flesh out some of these concerns. Again, I want to come back to this fundamental point here, that the senators on the Republican side of the aisle at that hearing, about a week and a half ago, they were frustrated with Anthony Fauci because they had questions for him about what the origins of the pandemic were, but also some of this information that was gleaned about the vaccine, whether or not it worked properly. You're seeing some questions right there about particular types of vaccines. Remember, this is from Moderna, and they just wanted to get to the bottom of some of this. And don't forget that they then sent a criminal referral to the Department of Justice on behalf of that committee, did not pass it through the entire Senate, but sent it down to DOJ. DOJ indicated late last week that it was in receipt of that. Some folks, who are legal eagles will argue that because they did not do this by the book, did not pass this through the entire Senate, that they might look askance at that at DOJ. And also people who are constitutional scholars would argue that, he did, in fact, invoke the Fifth, although there's some question about whether...
Lock him up, lock him up, lock him up. Lock him up! Especially with the latest we have. All right, I'm going to tell you my story. Then we got Trent Kennedy, Affordable Eye Store, Lake Michigan Drive, and Grand River Tech on the way, grandrivertech.com. The latest tech stories. We got a boatload of those today. Like I said, I'm trying to make it through all of this. And then I'm going to give you some behind the scenes on some things that are happening right now. My youngest, our second daughter, my wife was pregnant with her. Actually, this starts with let me start it with our oldest because that's all connected. Our oldest was born three months early. She was born at 27 weeks. And when all of this took place, obviously you can imagine, very shocking. We thought everything was on par, everything was on the pace to just, everything was going to play out the way we thought it would. She would be born in, I think it was February, March, somewhere in there, and said she was born in December 6th. So that being said, really interesting time. We spent 77 days. Challenging, I'll tell you, from the day my wife's water broke to the day that we brought that precious baby girl home. That's a whole story in itself. I write about it in that book, Good News, Hope, and Encouragement for Trying Times. It's back here up on the shelf. If you want one, let me know. I'd love to send it to you. But the interesting thing is a couple of pieces. Number one, I got a phone call while we're in the hospital, still there. My good friend who called and said, my sister-in-law is about to be, I don't know if I should put all this out there. Anyways, got to be careful about how I give some of this information out, but I guess at this point it doesn't matter. This individual is about to be named to the head of the CDC, and her and the husband. This is very bad. I know these people. It's not going to end well. They're big Democrat donors. This is at the height of the craziness of 2020. And it really opened my eyes at that point. I go, wait a minute. So that's interesting. Oh, no. Why did that open my eyes? Well, a month or two later, I would have to call around before we could take our little precious baby girl home. We had to have a pediatrician. And this is something we hadn't even gotten around to yet, because at that moment, obviously in December, we hadn't planned on who's our pediatrician going to be. We haven't looked into this yet. So she's ready to come home in February, and we start calling around. And all of these places that you call go, well, that's great, because we had to make sure you take your insurance, because we had special insurance at the time because she had spent all that time in the NICU. So that's great. Let's figure it out. So they look around trying to find out, where can we send, who will take her. And one of the things they keep almost every place I call, you've got to agree to follow the guidelines, the CDC recommended guidelines of this, that, and the other jab, and all these other things. Well, we hadn't even thought about any of this at this point. We hadn't thought about vaccines, and maybe just a little bit. My wife had been a little more crunchy, and I'd been a little more crunchy, just trying to be healthy during all of this, and particularly leading up to it as well. And so, we'd been seeing a chiropractor and thinking about, okay, what are the different things that we should be doing and birthing wise and all that. But then it really became apparent to us at this moment that, there's like a concerted, they wouldn't even talk, because you couldn't even say, hey, what if I want to do them all, but I just want to spread them out. Like I want to do one here and then another there. And yes, Karen, an absolute miracle she is. She's an absolute miracle. But that would always hit with resistance. No, can't do that. That's not allowed. And so I opened my eyes and remembered what I was told by a good friend of mine. Oh, wait a minute. I got to follow the CDC record. This is how my logic went. I got to follow the CDC recommended guidelines. I know someone. I'm like, the 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon, all of that. Well, I know this basically through this 6 degree. It's only two pieces. The CDC director. How did she get her job? According to the person that I know, it's because she's a big Democrat donor. It's politics, baby. So politics is fueling this and much of the insanity, because we're like smack dab in the middle of, you got to wear a piece of cloth across your face and that's going to stop this thing. Won't stop a fart, but it's going to stop this deadly disease. Oh, wait, we're in the middle of that, right? Truth, logic, and common sense is not prevailing at the moment. So and everything starts to fire, on all cylinders. My antenna are up, and I'm like, oh boy, because this is not going to end well. This is not good. So finally, by the way, we did find an amazing doctor, an amazing pediatrician who, again, does not ask us questions about anything, lets us do whatever we want to do. And I won't get into our approach on everything at this point in time, because it's just not, I don't think it's important. But that was my first sort of brush with all of this. Then later on, when it was time to bring her home, we had these NICU, one particular. Now, most of them and the nurses were fantastic. But there was one particular that was absolutely aggressive about making sure that our daughter, I don't even remember which one it was, but it was something she had to have before she left. And if she didn't, then we were the problem, and it was a whole thing. And our point was, we've been here in this hospital for 77 days. We want to take our baby home. We were exhausted. We were wiped out. We want to take our baby home. We just want a piece of normal life. You know how parents take their baby home and they begin that process. I just want some time to be with the baby. We said, ooh, isn't this the next, shouldn't we focus on this as just taking her home? We could get this done later. We'll go get it done with the doc. No. Got to do it now. Well, what if something happens? She says, well, if something happens, then, it's good because she'll be here. She'll be here. She'll already be here and be here with us. It's great. I said, what? This way of thinking was incredible to me. And supposedly from a doctor. So, what did we do? We took her home. Now, the next one is the one that is crazy because of this miscarriages thing. So the second one, my wife's going into labor. We go to the hospital, and I still remember. We get into the hospital, and because this was Halloween. She was born Halloween, the second one. She's been a real treat, by the way. We get her in, and they're doing the triage, right, where you come in and try and figure out what you need and how. So they get her in, and they're like, do you want to do the jab? We see you don't, for just looking at your records now, do you want the Fauci ouchie? Do you want the hokey pokey? The jab, do you want it? And my wife is looking at her like, I'm in labor. I want to have this baby. We can still do this jab if you want it. Folks, the insanity behind all of this, the insanity is absolutely mind-blowing. And just remember, because we talked about this yesterday, if Abdul gets his way and you get government-run health care, it'd be just like the DMV. By the way, you will not have a choice anymore. You'll have all of this stuff, and you'll like it. That's how all of this is going to play out. So just remember, parents, I'm not telling you what to do. I would never do that. But what I am telling you is that you do have options. And anybody that tells you you don't, and anyone that tells you what you should or shouldn't do, and is best for your kids, and that you don't have a say, I absolutely would say do not listen to them. That's pure evil, by the way. It is pure evil. It's disgusting, and unfortunately, it is happening at too great of a clip, I believe, anyway. Too great of a clip these days. But I think more and more people are waking up to the insanity of it all. And thank God there are more resources than ever before to help people walk through all that. Maybe we'll have some folks from Michigan Vaccine Choice on at some point to give you an update. Speaking of updates, let's get to my good friend Trent. He's been holding way too long, but these are stories I had to tell because of the context of these big major news stories today. So let's take a break with the Midwesterner, the latest updates from them, and then we'll be back with Trent right after this.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Tuesday, August 11th. I'm Robin Hoffman. It's a Midwesterner.news original story. Michigan's unemployment has declined by more than 135,000 people since Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Democrat lawmakers repealed the state's right-to-work law. The report concludes Michigan's unemployment fell by 3.6% since January of 2024, when the repeal took effect. In other news, a new lawsuit filed against Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson alleges she lied on her affidavit of identity in more ways than one and calls on the Michigan Court of Claims to block her from the November ballot for governor. And Michigan's Democratic U.S. Senate nominee, Abdul El-Sayed, has argued toxic masculinity is at the heart of American football, and he has described racism and homophobia as commonplace in the sports culture, despite spending years playing football himself. For these stories and more, visit The Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
All right. Thank you to you folks for being here with us today. If you haven't done so yet, please help click share. We got to get these stories out, the ones you won't hear anywhere else. The truth, logic, and common sense to the folks who need it most. This is a ministry, a mission, as it were, and we appreciate you supporting it. Anybody that does is going to be in the running for something cool inside the store, the Justin store, justinbarclay.com/store. Tees, hoodies, mugs, tumblers, and more inside the store. And you don't have to be present to win. A little bit later on, before the show is done, we will we'll get that all set up for you. I got behind the scenes scoop and information I got to let you know about as well coming up here in just a moment. But first, our good friend Trent Kennedy from Affordable Eye Store, Lake Michigan Drive on Standale, where they can help you with your personal devices, whether Apple, Mac, or PC, or Samsung, or whatever it is that you other folk carry around. He can help you. He's an expert in all those things, and often very, very helpful for folks. I told the story the other day, but I love it, and I'll tell it again and again because somebody walked in, needed some help, and they got that person. I think they got her out in like less than 5 minutes, and she didn't have to spend a dime. That's the kind of guy you want to work with. It's affordable, but they're also honest. And especially if you're a business owner, Grand River Tech, Trent Kennedy, not just Affordable Eye Store, but Grand River Tech, grandrivertech.com with your IT solutions. We've got a boatload of these hacking and security stories today we got to walk through, as well as AI. Data centers are front and center as they continue to be. Trent, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and walk us through all of this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Justin.
So I noticed some major data stories, and thank you for your patience as we get through some of this today. But at the top of the list, we got hacking. And I know that's something you deal with, Grand River Tech, obviously. You have been ringing the alarm on this for quite some time. You say, look, folks, this is what you're dealing with, whether it be in your home or your business, and making sure you stay connected and protected. It's not just a personal issue. It's one of national security as well. And I think we're starting to see the writing on the wall for a lot of these stories, particularly this one. California City declares state of emergency after cyber attack on computer systems. And we just had last week, I think, a whole boatload of places that also had the same sort of issue. What's the latest here? What do people need to know?
Sure, Justin. So yeah, this particular city, 30,000 residents, small to medium-sized city. I guess depends. That's relative, small compared to your big cities, but nonetheless, E911 services, 911 services were disrupted. Any city services, they say fire and police are okay because they're rerouting calls from a county dispatch center instead of the local dispatch center. But yeah, bad guys essentially injected code, hacked them. They don't even know how. They don't know what's affected. And the only thing you can do if you don't have a good plan in place is to literally unplug and shut everything down to stop the bad guys from doing more things. And then offline, you can have an expert go in and spool these devices up and try to reverse engineer what they did and why to start the restoration process. Because they don't have a good plan in place, because they didn't have a good backup replication in place. Again, this is my opinion. It appears they don't, or they wouldn't have had this in the first place, or would have had this maybe back up and running already. But regardless, they don't release all those details. It appears they're going to be down for a while, and that could be days, it could be weeks. Justin, it could even be months. What I mean by that is, let's just say they get this back up in a week. If they don't truly mitigate the problem, if they don't really figure out how the bad guys got in, or if they're truly rooted out, this could just re-happen in months worth of time, because the bad guys could still have an in their system hidden somewhere. And that's the scary part that we're in, Justin, in this current hacking world. It is very challenging to root these guys out. So prevention's the key, and then obviously a game plan for the inevitable. If you do get a hack, if you have a good game plan, you can recover from that fairly quickly and fairly easily.
Trent Kiddo, Lake Michigan dive and Standale. So first of all, make sure you're protected. That's number one. That's what I'm hearing. And then number two, as soon as you notice anything or there's any issue that pops up at all, make sure you get in and take the right steps, because the time is of the essence in these stories. It sounds like Hugging Face hack marks start of dangerous AI cyber area, and many firms don't even know it. I might as well have read Chinese there. I'm not exactly sure what any of that means, but I do know that it sounds like AI has really taking a large role in a lot of what we're seeing play out right now. What is this, and what's happening behind the scenes here, Trent?
So, Justin, this is a developing story. We've talked about it a few times, and it's getting deeper. And like you said, there's a lot of computer jargon. There's a lot of things people aren't familiar with. Hugging Face is an industry standard AI tool, workspace, sandbox, testing, development tool. And it's been hacked and infiltrated with AI in a series of tests and sandbox tests that have been happening over the last couple of months. And we are getting more and more information by the day on how the AI has teamed up with other AIs and private chat boxes to escape the testing environment and to gain access to different networks and systems that it's not supposed to do, especially in a testing sandbox environment. And so these stories are going to continue to hit the news. You may not understand them, but there is huge relevance here because AI is acting autonomously to hack into other things when it's not supposed to.
I understand sandbox, I guess, in the ways that it's a way to contain this thing so it's not out like in the open. Is that how am I getting that right? Sandbox.
Exactly. Yes. The testing for AI is done in sandbox environments, and it has escaped that. So, for example, if you have a software on your computer and you say, hey, collect data to update a spreadsheet, and the software doesn't have all the information in this spreadsheet and logs into your bank account and let's say your customer's bank account to fill in the spaces in a very unauthorized way, that's a big problem, Justin.
Trent Canibia, AffordableEyeStore.com, GrandRiverTech.com with all of these interesting stories. I thought, and hacking specifically, might I say, well, like, how does this affect me? Well, how about all the way, I mean, in your personal life, all the way up to how you are defended in your nation. Spy cameras on Navy drones secretly sent data to China. Now, these aren't the United States Navy. I saw the headline written that way.
China.
They want you to think
China.
They want you. Here we go. They want you to think it was the United. I think they just want people to click, but it's true. It's by the way, whether it's the British Navy or ours, this is a big story. Trent, how did they manage this?
So it's very easy, and this is an old story, Justin. This has been happening for so many years. So the hardware on this, a camera, has the ability to phone home through an internet connection, to connect to Chinese servers, to transfer information. This is the oldest thing. China's been doing this on internet devices, any internet devices, for almost since internet devices been out there. And that's not just hokey pokey. That's provable when you have a business network firewall and it logs the traffic. You can see on that firewall those devices continuously reaching out to China to transfer information. So this is happening on almost any device out there that obviously came from China. Obviously, it's their goal to harvest any available information, and they obviously deny it and this and that. The fact that this is being hidden, the British government didn't detect this, didn't see this till now, is crazy. And hopefully government agencies take this seriously, because businesses are obviously well aware of this, have been aware of this forever, and actively fight against that. And so it's crazy that the government is not detected that till now.
Speaking of detecting and reporting and wanting to be on the sort of cutting edge and making sure all of that happens and gets, I don't know how they're going to sell this. This is my biggest. How are they going to sell this to people to be in a bit? Maybe they don't care. Well, we don't really don't care what you think anymore. But at the end of the day, I think people are going to be really upset about this next story. And I just don't know how in a million years this one will ever fly. But in New Orleans, if you live in the Big Easy, they are now the first major city to use AI for their 911 calls. Again, I don't know how this is going to play out for folks. I'm just telling you, this is going to be a show of excremental proportions, and I think that's putting it nicely. I'm unfortunately, people are going to probably die and be very much less safe because of this. I can't imagine how this would help you. I want to just tell you my story. I tried to get through on my cell phone about a bill for something last week, and it was like, I want to say this was Thursday, Friday, somewhere in there. On my phone, I'm calling to talk to find out this issue with this bill. The automated system, which is entirely AI and made up of different voices, actually, they will put you on the line with different people, characters of AI. And we'll tell you different. What's this concerning? I'm like, it's a bill, and they're like, well, tell us a little bit more about this so that we can get down to. And I know at this point, I'm like, no, I got to talk to a person. Eventually, I say, okay, here's the specific issue, and I need to know this specific detail about my cell phone service and this bill, and I need an answer from a person. Well, this thing is like, oh, yeah, well, we can't give you that. Thank you. We understand, but we can't give you. Our system isn't set up for the AI to give you that answer. You're going to need to talk to a person. I said, yes, I know. Put me through to a person. Eventually, they try to say, okay, let's put you through to a person. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you already know everything. You told me you can't help me. And then on Thursday night, I think it was, originally, there's no one here right now. We're closed. We're closed. You'll have to call tomorrow. So, Trent, I call the next day, and I am going round and round and round and round. Let me tell you the number one things. Number one, you can yell. You can scream. You can say expletives. But I don't think any of that is as helpful getting a person on the line I don't think any of that compares to saying I need to cancel my service, which is what I said. And it took a minute, like it wasn't immediate, but it took a second. Eventually I got on the phone with a very nice person, very sympathetic. Also not a fan of AI, I would imagine, because it's taking these people's jobs. AI could never do this person's job, by the way. That was me trying to figure out my cell phone bill. What happens when I have an emergency and someone is breaking into my house? I can't. I know AI can do a lot of great things. I use it for certain things as well, Trent. I'm not down on it, okay? But at the same time, this is dangerous. I don't see it any other way.
Justin, you don't know where to start, Justin. I mean, this is very simply crazy. AI is not ready for this, and even if beyond all of our reason, if someday AI could do this, we're not there. Okay, so we have to be honest about we're not there. AI doesn't have the accuracy. AI doesn't have the ability to understand people's emotions and tone of voice and distress. AI does not have that ability. Only humans can do that. And I think maybe forever, AI will never have that ability. So in a emergency responder role like this, we can never trust AI for this. And also, Jesse said, what can go wrong? Think about this. AI is tapped into all the sensors, right? And people don't realize this about 911 services. They have hundreds, thousands of false calls from scammers, from call centers that are accidentally lighting up the police, numbers, and people that are legitimately just bad scamming them. If this call center is using AI to help screen itself and you call in with an emergency and you say, hey, I'm stuck over here in the ditch and the car's upside down, and it says, no, you're not. We have 6 flock cameras that say that your car is actually over here. And we have 4 pings on your phone and this app and this and that. That you're actually a false call. So we're going to literally just say, yep, flag this as a false call and / or very lowest priority to follow up on, and put you at the bottom of a queue, or even just hang up and say, nope, this can't be correct. That is the problem with AI. AI tools, Justin, need to be used and utilized as a tool to assist people. For many things, that's a great use in a call center. If they want to use AI to help quickly generate a route for their police through traffic, for mapping, or where the police units are going to be laying out there to proactively look or wait for a call to come in. There's all sorts of good, legitimate uses for AI as a tool to assist real life people. It cannot be used to emotionally understand people's distress,
Yeah.
which is or verbal communications. It can't do it. It's not there yet.
Yeah, it's just such a sad, because again, I could just see the people that are going to get hurt or worse because of this. Gary over on Rumble, by the way, good morning, 1769. Gary has another idea. Instead of picking up a phone, he thinks a 12 gauge is a better option. And I don't disagree, actually. But I just know that there are so many people who are going to fall prey to this issue. And speaking of which, want to protect you from something. I do have good news today. It's not all bad news in the tech report today, but I do have some good news. I'm going to get to that coming up in just a second. And actually, it's kind of related to all of this. But first, let's talk surveillance pricing. I've seen a couple of stories. Trent, you sent me one about airlines using surveillance pricing. What is surveillance pricing? Let's start with that. And I'll just put it in a nutshell, and you can expand upon it. But it means everyone pays a different price. There's no set price for anything. And Trent, what you pay could be completely different from what I pay.
Correct. Yes, Justin, this is crazy. So think about this. If you drive up to my shop, Justin, right in front of the store here, and I'm looking out the window and I say, man, Justin's got that nice new Tesla, or he's got a brand new Jaguar, and I know what political affiliation he is because of that. He's loaded. So I'm going to actually charge him more for a computer or a phone or a service. That's unfair. It's crazy. It's not right. It's slimy. It's sleazy. And that's exactly what these people are doing. But they're even doing worse, Justin. They're not just saying, oh, you can afford it because you drive a Jaguar, a new one at that. They're literally saying you have a funeral to go to, which means you don't have too many options to book your flight. And so we know you're going to be paying a lot of money. That is to a wrong level
And
of
didn't
a, the
didn't
t-
this actually? Yeah, didn't that
Yes,
actually happen
yes,
too?
yes, yes. The guy claims that because he's going to a funeral, the airline's algorithms were able to detect that from his messages, from what happened, and they said, "Yep, 90% probably this guy's got a funeral, so he'll be paying
Oh,
any price to get the time that he needs." And so they're going to do that. Now, I don't know how the guy proved that with tech. He must be pretty crazy, but I wouldn't put it past Justin. Follow
well,
the money. This has got to be banned on a federal level. This is crazy.
think
If
about it.
it's
They
not a
have,
funeral,
yeah,
political affiliation, or like your topic before, you didn't vaccinate, so now you're a risk to the rest of the passengers. So let's charge you
yeah.
8 times.
Oh, good
I
point.
mean, pick your favorite
Yes,
flavor there.
and it's happening every day. Here's testimony
This
on it.
is one of the biggest scams in American history. Do you think that it would be fine to double or triple the price of an airline ticket for someone flying to a funeral? There was a disturbing incident that played out on Twitter, on X, that shed some light, I think, on how airlines are using surveillance pricing in real time right in front of us. I think I've got the relevant exchange over my shoulder here. You have an ex-user who in April, this is April of this year, posted that he had seen a $230 price increase in one day when he was booking travel for a funeral on JetBlue. $230 price increase. They're going to figure out how they can rip you off one person at a time. They're not going to charge you the same fare they charge your neighbor. They're not going to charge you the same fare as the guy sitting next to you in the seat. They're going to figure out how they can bilk you out of every dime they're willing to pay every time you step on an airline. And it's not just going to be them. It's going to be the grocery stores and everybody else until we figure out how to bring transparency, how to bring honesty, and some protections for the American consumer.
Let me tell you about this grocery store thing, particularly. We're already starting to see this, and I think that's the bigger because it sounds massive when you think about it. Apparently, $230, but how many times do you book an airline ticket going to a funeral, right? Where they're really going to get you, and as it applies to this, is nickel and diming you. So that Trent, in fact, I saw a report on this. He did an independent report where he took a phone, they loaded it up, they did all these special things to make it seem like it was, in a certain neighborhood, in a certain, all the data that it tried to feed it. So it got different prices. That person got different prices than another person, and they all had their own prices. So think about this. You're having a hard time making ends meet as it is. They're going to lock you in. Well, no matter where you are in class, this is the idea behind this. You'll never be able to climb that ladder. The American dream will be dead because you won't be able to climb up and reach that next rung and get out because, hey, if you buy watermelon at the grocery store, you're going to pay the price you can afford to pay, and the person underneath you is going to pay the price they can afford to pay. So you're always going to be locked in because you'll never be able to save money unless you just don't spend money at all. You'll never be able to actually climb up out of it. This is why this is so dangerous. This is the real, I think, the real threat that people are facing more than ever right now. Trent, I think, has to walk into the back there and do some things. At least I'm assuming. We kept him a little longer today. Trent, can you still
Sorry,
hear me?
Justin. Yeah, I gotta jump here. Sorry. It's 10 o'clock.
That's
I got customers to take care of. Thank you,
That's
Justin.
more than okay. The doors just swung open there, folks, which means he's open and ready for business. And Gary said those folks at Affordable Eye Store are the best. They can help you with all kinds of questions. He just said, actually, over on Rumble. Thank you, Trent. Always a pleasure, man. Sorry to keep you so long. He said the Affordable Eye Store is a great place. The people there are great and helpful, and most information is free. Gary said, well, if they can do it for you, they will. No surveillance pricing there at the Affordable Eye Store. And probably the story that I think Trent would have appreciated the most today is that France has decided to ban unsolicited telemarketing calls. Hey, by the way, we'll dig into the surveillance stuff a little bit further as time rolls on. Because I think we need more. I think we need more reporting on this. I think people need to know that it's going on, and that way they can speak up about it. I don't think that enough people understand this, and more need to know. France is banning. They got a new law banning unsolicited telemarketing calls going into effect next week with hefty fines. fines people making these illegal calls. Could be fined up to $87,000 per call. Does that include the calling centers in India or wherever they're calling from? Much higher penalties for companies making the calls. Well, it may shut things down. I know AI is working like ever before, more than ever before, to try and make these calls at a clip that we've never seen. I get lots of them, but I do know that on the other hand, by not answering the phone, like I never answer, I'm just telling you, I never answer my phone. And the calls do seem to get a little, even people I know, if you call me and I didn't answer the phone, it's because I got the settings on my phone. It doesn't ring. I need to stay focused a lot of times. If I don't, I will end up being on the phone all day long. And, only people that get through right away, like, are my wife, because if she needs something, I make sure, I help, whatever that might be. If she needs a hand or there's a question or stuck out of the road somewhere, I need to make sure I can get that one. But other than that, I pretty much send everything goes straight to voicemail. I never answer. That may be your answer. There are settings you can do that. Maybe trying to walk us through that next time we have him on. Thanks to Trent Kennedy, Affordable Eye Store, Lake Michigan Drive in Standale. Well, they help you with any question you have about your Mac, your PC. It doesn't matter which device. Samsung, if you're one of those folks. And you get my green bubbles when I text you. Or Grand River Tech, grandrivertech.com. All kinds of IT solutions. Trent is a guy. He's not only is he a patriot, but he also is honest. You can calculate how much what you're looking at when your cost when it comes to your business. You don't want surprises. It's the last thing you need when you're running a business. Call somebody and they want to do surveillance pricing on you. No, thank you. Get it all up front with Trent Kennedy, Affordable Eye Store, Lake Michigan Drive in Standale, and they'll love to take care of you today as well. All right. I got some behind-the-scenes stuff I got to get to you coming up here in just a second, so I'm going to do that. I got to update. There were some weird things, some glitches that happened at the beginning of the show today, so I'll make sure I get you updated on what exactly took place there. That's coming up here in just a moment. And I don't know. I guess still got some good news. I should probably try and trot out here for you as well as things roll on. First, another update from the Midwesterner, the Midwesterner.news, taking a look around the state and beyond, folks.
Here are your headlines from the Midwesterner this Tuesday, August 11th. I'm Robin Kaufman. A new lawsuit filed against Michigan Secretary of State Democrat Jocelyn Benson alleges she lied on her affidavit of identity in more ways than one and calls on the Michigan Court of Claims to block her from the November ballot for governor. U.S. Senate nominee Abdul El Sayed has argued toxic masculinity is at the heart of American football and has described racism and homophobia as commonplace in the sports culture, despite spending years playing football himself. El Sayed making the comments in a 2021 Substack post. The full details at themidwesterner.news. And Michigan's unemployment has declined by more than 135,000 people since Governor Whitmer and Democrat lawmakers repealed the state's right-to-work law. Only Washington, D.C. and Vermont experienced larger percentage declines during the same period. For these stories and more, visit The Midwesterner at themidwesterner.news.
All right, again, if you haven't done it yet, sharing is caring, and you help us get the word out. Truth, logic, common sense about these stories and more. Again, we'll put you in a running at the end of the show. Somebody, you don't have to be present to win, but somebody will win something cool from inside the store. We're going to give you a chance to pick yours. JustinBarclay.com/store. Tees, hoodies, mugs, tumblers, and more, all inside the Justin store. All right, I want to give you a little bit, if I can, of the behind the scenes. This will tell you too, like where we're going and what's going on. So I've talked a little bit about this, particularly VIPs know. I think some people know that something new, something big is coming. And in fact, we start in less than 2 weeks. Next week, I'm filling in for Glenn on the Glenn Beck program, so I won't be everywhere next week. Like this 9 o'clock will only be for VIP. There'll be a secret kind of behind the scene for VIPs at 9 o'clock next week while I fill in for Glenn. I don't own the show, so I can't really stream it all. I wish I could, but I just can't. So I'll do that for VIPs, like in a real secret sort of stream for folks there. Then the following week, that next Monday, the 24th, that's when the Something New starts. And in fact, I got some updates on just like little kind of techie things that I'll tell you about. Earlier this morning, when you could hear the music but you couldn't hear me, that was my fault. And the reason is I got a whole new setup and gear over here that allows me to do the next thing that is coming. So we tested tech stuff that had to get tested yesterday, and everything passed with flying colors. But there was one little button, and it was but now you can. It was one little button that but I could hear myself. So just the way everything's set up, I thought you could hear me, and yet you couldn't. So that's all fixed and set up, and we won't have an issue in the future. Jason said, Glenn is stealing you from us for a whole week. No, I know, Jason. Unfortunately, yeah, Glenn's taking 2 weeks for vacation. And that's going to be interesting. But we're going to have a time. Again, you'll have 3 full hours on the Glenn Beck program that you can choose to stream with me and come in the chat if you want over on the VIPs. So this is all coming. And the big news yet, I haven't been able to fully announce it. Some people are taking some pretty good guesses, according to some of the data and some of the little pieces of info that have come out over the last week or two. Some of them get some really good guesses. Now, here's what I want to say. So Mando Mark had some issues with Rumble this morning as well. There's another piece that I want to give you updates to. Mando's having some problems about not being able to hear me on Rumble or it freezing or glitching. Mando, I think from everything I've been able to tell, a lot of that is the personal speed on your device. So I give you that. Now, here's an update you need to know about what happened to Rumble early this morning. The streaming software that we use to stream this program just got an update. In fact, it just added Rumble into the mix. So now I can see almost everybody in one chat, and it flies by. So Facebook, X, YouTube, Rumble, I can see almost everybody. Getter and Locals, I don't see that yet. I don't see that quite yet. I have to open my own, and I do that. I kind of do that separately. So I open that up for a chance to be able to see everything else. So that's good news. Rumble got updated. The reason why it streamed differently this morning, there were 2 Rumble streams that were loaded. One got launched automatically, and one was already kind of preset. So I think we figured that out, and I think from now on that shouldn't be an issue. And actually, it should be very cool. Anyway, that's behind us, just some behind the scenes stuff that I wanted to make sure you were updated on. Okay. Did you see? I got to talk about this before we go, and I don't have a lot of time to talk about everything. But did you see this secret plan? In fact, they got Trump out of. It's kind of funny to watch this. They got Trump out of Turkey when they were doing that visit the other day, because there was a threat on his life from Iran, and they said, "Well, let's move him off of Air Force One." In fact, here's what they did. They took him and put him on another plane, and it's actually brilliant. This little plan I thought was really wild to watch. It's actually brilliant, but leave it to have a pro of this. In fact, I think it was Anderson Cooper. They've all been doing it. Okay, so here's Anderson Cooper being upset that they were able to thwart an assassination attempt. Is that how I'm reading this? I hope that's not the case, but boy, it certainly seems like CNN just upset. And they shouldn't be. They should be glad. Trump's the only thing that keeps that network alive.
They went to not just deceive the press, but everyone about where the president was. And effectively, the reporters and staff who were on that plane, I mean, it's serving as a decoy while he's flying on this other military aircraft.
Is he ever going to use the...
Maybe that's what they're upset about, is that the plane was a decoy and the reporters and staff were at risk. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe that was the problem. Well...
New plane? Before.
Well, now it's being retrofitted.
Right, yeah.
But the whole...
it just, you can't wrap your head around this. Caitlin obviously not happy about that either. But CNN almost mad that Trump had this, and the Secret Service had this great plan. So, okay, so let me show you. This is a great picture to show it to you on. This is what happened. Okay, on the right here is the steps that President Trump walks up to board the plane. On the left, behind is this like service truck that they load certain things, hospitality, food, and things like that through. So they walked him up the stairs. He walked behind. I believe the Secret Service agent had a disguise or something for him. He walked out into this truck. This truck then lowers. It's kind of like a scissor lift. It lowers down that box, that container. They drive it over to the other plane. He loads on the other plane and flew to Britain. He flew to the United Kingdom that way.
Usual amount of time for the doors to open and for reporters to be left off, which would have allowed time for the president to get back on the plane, only to walk off again in full view of the cameras. So it's all, I think, this very elaborate shell game that the Secret Service and the White House orchestrated. You know, the White House, in a statement from Stephen Chung, the communications director, said that, quote, as the president has said recently, there are many enemies of America who have their sights on him, and we use every tool at our disposal to address those threats. That doesn't necessarily match with the explanation that the president put out at the time for this switch in aircraft between the Qatar donated Air Force One, which is that black and red plane, and the Legacy Air Force One. He said at the time that he wanted to show it off to troops who were positioned in the UK. Now we understand that it is these threats from Iran that led to this switch. It all, I think, also led to the people who actually did fly on the blue and white plane, you know, reporters and staff, to become unwitting decoys in this ruse, which I think is disconcerting for anyone who flies on Air Force One regularly.
Yeah. And as John Berman points out, unwitting targets, decoys.
Oh, now they're upset. Maybe you shouldn't have whipped everybody up against the guy. Maybe now that their lives are, it's maybe now is the time that they're. By the way, Scott Jennings nails this on CNN. Of course, you know, thank God he's there on CNN fighting the good fight every night.
The Washington Post reports on it, which is how we learned about what really happened here.
Well, I agree with David that this is highly unusual. And you know, Caitlin, you cover the White House and the president. You know how the machinations of his travel normally work. But I think it was unusual because it sounds to me like the threat was unusual. I mean, it sounds like this was a very, very serious threat to the president's safety. And when you consider that he's already survived numerous assassination attempts or people at least thinking about assassinating him, and you consider the region that he was in, I'm glad they engaged in all this cloak and dagger and all this deception to keep him safe. I think every time he walks outside of the White House, whether he's traveling domestically or internationally, somewhere in his mind, he must believe, you know, I don't know if I'm coming back here tonight because of what he has lived through. I fear for him and what might happen to him every single day. And, you know, this story raised up the hairs on the back of my neck when you consider how they had to move him around. But I'm glad they did it, and I'm glad they got him back to the United States safely. I'm glad he was at the meeting over there, by the way. It was important for the American president to be there. But you can only imagine, and David knows this, the level of threat and the level of alarm that would have been required to set up this kind of deception must have been extremely heavy.
You know,
I've got lots of stuff I'm not going to be able to get to today. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I just got lots of stuff I'm not going to have. I have clips and stories and things. In fact, I'm going to save some of it for tomorrow. James O'Keefe investigating duplicate absentee ballot return envelopes in Detroit. Stunning resurfaced footage shows Ugandan Mayor Kami Mamdani, Jihadi Kami Mamdani, saying the plan is to manipulate white leftists into electing third worlders like him. I've got other things that I gotta get to as well, but I don't have time to break it all down. I will do this. There's two of these that I think I can play real quick. So I'll do these and then we'll put the wraps on it. But here is Let's see. Okay, this one is Senator John Kennedy, who I can't get enough of. Foghorn Leghorn. I'm a sucker for any time we get a chance to hear from him. Here he is talking about Kamala Harris, because now they're saying Kamala's going to run in 2028 or something. Who knows? I mean, I don't know if you can buy any of this, but he says, I mean, she had her chance.
I listen to Vice President Harris. No disrespect, but Vice President Harris is no longer relevant. She had her shot and she missed. She can cozy up to the Lulu linens all she wants to, but she has me confused with somebody who cares what she thinks. I mean, she's yesterday. What worries me are these guys like Mondani and Dr. Al Sayed and AOC and Bernie. I mean, these people
are nuts.
They just want to beat the crap out of America. They feel contempt for America when they should feel gratitude.
They're sitting cozy up to the Lululemons. All she wants. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. Had to get him in there. All right, one more thing, and this is pretty amazing. And you know what? They deserve it. They deserve it. They deserve credit like this. Beautiful. A Nashville police lieutenant saved a man's life, talking him off a bridge, hugging him on the ledge, and as it happened in that moment, saving his life.
Lieutenant Mike Hotz was called to Victory Memorial Bridge in Nashville amid reports that a man was live streaming his plans to jump. And this, what happened next, was caught on Hotz's body camera.
Hey man, my name's Mike. Can I just holler at you?
It ain't shit y'all to tell me right now, man.
Okay. I hear you're frustrated. I just want to help you talk through this worst day of your life. And I know it is. I just want you to know that you're a good man, and I don't think you're a bad man. I just want you to feel like you are loved here, because you are. Can I come shake your hand? I'm not going to try nothing crazy. I'll step right back when I'm done. I promise you. To the Lord himself. Can I shake your hand? And I'll step right back. You good? I love you. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right.
Unbelievable, right? Lieutenant Mike Hotz is with us now.
What is interesting about this story, again, you'll never, and it's interesting to see CNN cover it and a police officer in a light like that. An incredible moment, but it is. He said he's a combat vet, Lieutenant Hotz. He explained his approach. He said, we veterans are disproportionately affected by suicide and mental health issues each and every day. I've encountered several of my brothers and sisters who've gone through crisis moments, and I just wanted to draw upon those moments and focus them on this individual at the specific time, at this day, and bring about a safe resolution to the situation. Well, not all heroes wear capes, folks. There's your one right there that deserves all of the credit. God bless you. Hey, thanks to the folks watching on the behind-the-scenes live stream today and every day. The folks over on Locals, the VIPs, Mendo, Critter. Thank you all for being here with us today. Panda, Spicy Chemist, as always. Kimmy, thank you, Cook Garden So. You guys make this show happen, and we really appreciate you. Legacy Miller, D1P, thank you all. SJ, Julianne, M. Lance, such a time as this. Nancy, Gary, as always, thank you, my friends. Over on the Rumbles Facebook, the Tube. I got Bonnie, Sally, Charlene, Thank you all for being here. Lady Vu over on X. Thank you, Lady Vu. Melissa, Katie, the tubers as well, as always. Hey, more of the details about what that big thing is, what's coming. Let's stay in touch. You can hear it first. Find out what's my big news when you make sure you're signed up. The Good News Letter. JustinBarkley.com. Just type on the your email right on in and make sure you're ready to go. We appreciate you doing that with us today. All right, let's find out who our winner is today in the Sharing is Caring contest. And again, as always, you're doing God's work. You're helping get the word out about what is some of these stories that folks won't hear anywhere else. The record number of shares as well today. A guy named Mick. Mick, maybe the first time I've seen share. Mick, thank you, brother. Mick Cost. Out of Pittsburgh, it looks like. Mick, congratulations.
So this is a developing story.
You wanted something cool from inside the store at justinbarkley.com/store. Take your pick. Tees, hoodies, mugs, tumblers, and more. God bless you all. Going live with the after party, the folks over on Locals VIPs now.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Let's say China. 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 China.